Hello and welcome. It is 12:30. It is the 10th day of September 2021. I am your guide to all tabletop role-playing game news, weather, and sports, the OGGM. I really can't call myself your grumpy guide to role-playing anymore because apparently I'm reasonable now and not so grumpy. And compared to others, I just can't do it anymore. It's going to be very hard, but I can't do it anymore. So your semi-reasonable guide to all things gaming here, the OGGM. And we have some news regarding the forthcoming Wizards of the Coast Field Guide to Pixies, or the Feywild Witchlight adventure thing. I'm still waiting for spooky circus figures, but we're getting some other figures. So the first thing is THACO. And somebody already got me with this one with a post about THACO being in Witchlight. And of course, I've played long enough to know what THACO is, so I was like, what? Why? Where? How? What? Are you sure? You got me, dude. You got me. So apparently there is an NPC in Witchlight, Fewild, Book of the Fairy, that is named THACO the Clown, which is supposedly an Easter egg nod to the older mechanic in Dungeons & Dragons, 2-hit armor class 0, which was around in, first-ish, second edition-ish time. So it's a nod to that. But the trouble is, I've used that joke before in the past, more than once, naming an NPC THACO, or, using that out-of-context word in other situations, but 9 out of 10 times people don't get it, because unless you play D&D a really, really long time, you haven't heard THACO. And there's even people who have played D&D a long time who have either forgotten about THACO or just don't get the reference. They're like, oh, THACO. Oh, 2-hit armor class 0. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's not funny. No, okay, yeah. So THACO the Clown, as a nod to older editions, and I don't know if I'm supposed to think that's an insult to older games because it's a clown, or it's a nod of reverence to the older mechanic, or it's just a play on words, THACO the Clown, because it sounds like wacko, and the clown whacks people, so I don't know. I was told I would have strong opinions on the introduction of THACO. And the way it was worded, I thought they were bringing back the mechanic for some weird aspect of the Feywild. And I was like, why would they do that unless it's some weird fairy magic reverse thing? I mean, I guess I could see it as an alternate rule for pixie combat or whatever, but no, it was an NPC. So do I have strong opinions about an NPC named THACO as a reference to a previous edition's combat mechanic? No. None whatsoever. I don't know why you think I would. It's a fun play on words. I think most people aren't going to get it if you don't point it out, even if they have played 40 plus years like I have. Most people won't get it unless you point it out, because as I said, I've used it as a joke name. 9 out of 10 times people don't get it, even people who have played a really long time, because it's just I don't. And then you just name an NPC THACO and it's like toss it out and I think people are going to be like, oh, yeah, no. Really, unless you actively think about it, it's just not a word that you really make that connection to. So I don't really get it. I don't know if they're trying to be funny, if they're trying to be insulting, if they're trying to be cute, if they're trying to be clever. It just seems like kind of a waste. I don't have strong feelings about it. I don't know why I should have strong feelings about it. I don't think the joke works. Okay, we have some other news regarding the amazing forthcoming Pixie source book that is Witchlight. We have some information on the Rabbit Folk race and the Pixie Fairy Winged Tinkerbell race. Okay, so the Pixie Fairy Winged Tinkerbell race is generically going to be called fairies, but they can represent any fairy type you want. So if you want to be a brownie or a nixie or a nagag or a gurgle or grepply, whatever. It's just a name as far as they're concerned. They're all just sort of this winged race of chaotic troublemakers. But these are not Tinkerbell-sized fairies. They are about the size of halflings now. They didn't want to come up with new rules for a new size, so these will be chunky fairies. These will not be cute, teeny, typical fairies. These are going to be humanoid, hobbit-sized fairies. So basically, they're gnomes with wings. I don't know. I haven't seen the stats of them to see how they're that exceptionally different, but right now they just seem to be, because they're now humanoid size instead of teeny, gnomes with wings. We also have some information on the rabbit folk, the Harengon, Harengon. Apparently, they're jerks. And not cute, fuzzy, helpful, loving rabbits. From what I'm reading here, the imagery was sort of more of like a group of rabbit dickheads, according to Perkins. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't really know if I want to do rabbit folk, but the idea of the rabbit folk actually being jerks and not cute, fuzzy, sort of works for me, because you think rabbit folk and you sort of have certain expectations. Usagi Yojimbo, Mouse Guard, oh, their bunnies are going to be cute and harmless, and they're saying, Perkins is saying, no, these guys are kind of more like, bandits and sort of like dickheads. And I think, yeah, that would be fun, because it subverts the expected of what you think rabbit folk are going to be. So I could go with that. I don't know how I feel about humanoid-sized pixies, because then they're just gnomes with wings. Or lumping them all together as one generic pixie race and just telling the players, you can call it whatever you want. Wasn't the whole point of this whole racism, diversity thing to sort of get away with that idea of you can call it whatever you want, and having options and having diversity, and no two pixies are going to be alike because no two players are going to be alike. But now we're saying, no, they're just all sort of blamed together. I need to see the mechanics on that one before I make a final judgment on what I think about gnomes with wings. But right now it just sort of sounds dumb. On the other hand, I could be a huge fan of the Harengon if they are played and written correctly, because the idea of rabbits being dickheads really sort of appeals to me. I don't know why. I'm sorry. We also know that several classic characters from the 80s and other stuff will be appearing in Feywild. I don't know how. We know that Warduke is going to be in it, and some of the other characters from the 80s cartoon and the 80s action figure line. One of them is Igwilv, also known as Tasha. Igwilv, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. It's Iggwilv. Normally was associated with Greyhawk, but I guess now she's in the realms, much the same way that Mordekainen is now in the realms. Because I guess Greyhawk and the realms are now one and the same. I don't know. So Iggwilv is going to be in the game in some form with her hourglass coven of hags sisters. We also know that it's been revealed, in case you were one of the three people who didn't know, that Tasha of Tasha's Hideous Laughter and Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, who everybody thought was this good guy, is actually been Igwilv, the horrible witch bad guy who is also buddies with Vecna all this time. So I'm not sure how that's going to play out in this continuing story involving Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and Tasha, sort of being this figurehead for the changes in D&D and how it was a positive change. But now we're saying, no, all this time Tasha was actually Igwig, and we know Igwig was sort of a horrible, archmage wizardy chick who hangs out with witches. So yeah, that's interesting. So there we go. We had some interesting new news regarding the upcoming Dungeons and Dragons Feywild. The THACO joke, I don't really get it. I think it's a waste. Fairies are now basically gnomes with wings. Again, I'd have to see the mechanics, but right now that feels just, again, like a waste. It's sort of pointless. The Harengon, the rabbit folk that were getting people so upset, actually, I'm sort of interested in them now because, like I said, the idea of rabbit folk going against type and actually being a bunch of jerks sort of appeals to me. And one of the many classic NPCs making an appearance in this adventure, though we don't know how they're appearing yet, like Warduke, is Igwig, also Tasha. So possibly more of the Tasha Igwig story will play out. Possibly there will be some type of connection between Feywild and the story lore in Tasha's Cauldron of Gibbering's Ridiculousness. And, so that could be potentially interesting lore. I mean, because Tasha was the good guy and she changed everything and she made, diversity, and she was all about fun and laughter and equality. It's like, no, turns out that was all a ruse, and Tasha's actually this horrible witch who's all about corruption and chaos and hell and Vecna and undead and power and witches and yeah. So yeah, I'm interested to see the Warduke and the classic characters return in some form and how they're approached. As I've said from the beginning, since this is all sort of based around a circus and sort of a something wicked this way comes feel, and I kind of like that. I think it could be a setting on its own, creepy circus, and not really have anything to do with D&D. It could be like sort of almost kind of like Ravenloft, where you could just do whole things in this world of sort of this creepy arcane punk pixie circus. I want to see a series of creepy circus figures. I want to see a creepy circus figure set up, for a terrain for like the tent and like the wagon and stuff. I would be all over that. We haven't really seen creepy circus that are figures that I know of that are D&D sides since Horror Clicks, and that was a long time ago. But there were a lot of creepy circus figures. And let's face it, creepy clowns are the number one terror at any amusement park right now for Halloween. There's going to be creepy clowns. The fear of clowns is like the number one fear in the world, with spiders being number two, I think. So yeah, I hope that they lean into the creepy circus, creepy clown idea that seems to be at least displayed in the art. I'm interested to see dickhead rabbits. I really don't care about THACO the Clown. I really don't care about gnome-sized pixies. How the revelation that Tasha the good guy is actually Igwig the bad guy, and I know I'm mispronouncing that name, that could be fun to follow. That could be very fun to follow. But at the end, I just want my creepy circus figures. Anyways, I am your no longer grumpy guide to all things gaming. You're now semi-reasonable guide to all things gaming, the OG GM. If you appreciate this content and want to see more, let me know. If you have any thoughts on THACO the Clown or creepy circuses or pixies, let me know. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Help me hit 1,000 subs. Till then, have a great day. I'll talk to you later. See? I didn't say it. I didn't say stay off my land because I'm not grumpy anymore. I'm reasonable.